We're going to start off with Snize and James. Have a look at the WTP. Serena Williams last year, meltdown with Osaka. Boys, do we think that Serena's going to win it this year?
Snize, I think I should let you start with that one. It's your area.
Okay. Yeah. Hi. Happy to be here. Talking some more Flushing Meadows US Open. And I do not think that Serena Williams wins this again. Last year was an epic meltdown, and she made the headlines for other reasons than her tennis play, with emotional outbursts, cussing at the referee, and really stealing Naomi Osaka's moment in the limelight there. Serena has lost 3 straight now, major finals. And if she isn't injured, which she's been a lot, it's been her nerves that have become her undoing as she's chasing this 24th historic major title behind Margaret Court. So I don't think that Serena will win this year. I've had my eyes on a few others, as we have seen on the earlier shows here. So no Serena for me.
Okay, James, what about the sentiment towards Serena? Do you think that half want her to get to number 24 and half want to see the demise of a champion?
Yeah, so I think we saw this with Novak to a lesser degree when he had his off period a couple of years ago. And what you tend to see is the players who felt invincible for a long time will slowly start to show the kinks in the armor. Players will start to play better against them. They'll start to believe more against them. I mean, we saw this with Halep against Serena at Wimbledon. She just came out a completely different player to how she'd played against her in the past, and took her to bits. And as Snize said, it's a combination of fitness issues, but there's a lot of psychological issues in there. And I mean, I have to say, I've always felt like Serena is a little bit difficult mentally. She's not someone who is always all there. She normally gets away with it because she's so good, but as she gets older, as she gets a little bit less clinical, you can see it starting to be more and more of an issue, certainly. Yeah.
I mean, there's always that thing with top sports people or sports persons, is like that genius stroke mad. I mean, they have to tilt right on the very edge, and she's certainly done that, and she's not the first. I mean, we go back to McEnroe, we go back to Connors, and tennis just seems to be one of them sports that it makes you and it breaks you. Snize, who's impressed you so far in the first round?
I'm going to have to go ahead and say Aryna Sabalenka. She was faced with a nightmare matchup against fellow compatriot and Belarusian Victoria Azarenka, former major winner, and she looked incredible. She's just combining her natural upside with aggressive, clean ground strokes, powerful ground strokes, with some more controlled aggressions, really reeling in the unforced errors, which have often become her undoing. And she's one of the most talented players on tour, and one of the players with the most untapped potential. And if she's going to play as she did in that first round match, she's definitely one to look out for here.
James, I looked at the early odds. I look at Sloane Stephens, former champion here, at 34. Not 34 years of age, 34 on the odds. How does that even happen?
It's always the case when players start winning, or when a player wins a tournament, a Grand Slam, and to a lesser degree when they win one of the tournaments leading up to a Grand Slam or any of the major events in the year, people take notice of that. And I think the bookies react very defensively with the odds because they know that people are just going to think back to that, that first thing that comes to mind is the fact that they've already won a slam or they've already won an event recently. And so they hype up how likely it is that player is actually to win, when in reality, as you're kind of implying here, that's probably too short. That's not really the kind of price that would make a lot of sense to me in that context.
So you don't fancy that she's going to be able to repeat winning in Flushing Meadow?
I believe that Stephens lost in the first round.
She's out already.
So, this is, very much no. I wouldn't be taking that price now, and I wouldn't have taken it before. She had a tricky opening round, and even if she'd got through that opening round, as you were implying, I just think that price is overly influenced by historic form. That's not really been backed up well enough recently.
Snize, how did your tips go in the first round?
Went pretty well. Started the first day with a 3-3 result, and ended the second day with a 5-1 result. So 8-4 across round one. So doing well, got in some decent profit, and now we look onwards to round two. Hopefully, can keep the good form up.
Who's your top tips for round two?
Round two right now, we have a bet that's going to go in action hopefully today. It's been raining a lot. I don't know if that's resolved yet, but it's the under 26.5 games in Daniil Medvedev versus Hugo Dellien. Dellien is a clay court specialist who loathes other surfaces. He's played, I think, 21 matches in total. He's lost 16 of them. He was really lucky to get through Kwon, who had to retire with an injury, and Medvedev has been trucking lesser opposition lately. Won against Gunneswaran in straight sets without any problems, and he's a fringe top 100 player and pretty decent on hard court, so I don't think that Dellien has a chance here. So that should go underway here in a few hours. So that's my favorite for the round two.
James, what about the women? Round two, who you got your eyes on?
So I think I actually felt like the men's was surprisingly underdoggy this round, whereas the women's less than I expected, perhaps. But one bet that I think is very solid, based on both statistics and intuitively thinking about how the two players are playing now, is to back Andreescu to basically take Flipkens to bits. And you can do that either by what I did in the article that I've sent, is under 19 games. Because if you look at that statistically, it's landed about 72% of the time for the two players in similar situations, meaning that when they're priced in a similar price range. And you can see the gulf in class between the two of them. They're at opposite ends of their career, with Flipkens coming towards the end, whereas Andreescu is right at the beginning. Of course, she's passed all expectations so far on the WTA, and in particular winning Toronto recently. So she's very much a player that I'd want to be on side with. Whereas Flipkens, who can be dangerous, she's got the kind of game that can be dangerous, but she's really not been able to put it together against the better players recently, or really ever in her career. She's had moments of brilliance, but it does not look like one of those is coming anytime soon. So yeah, I took under 19 games at 1.88 with Pinnacle, which either that or a similar underline, or even a much more aggressive underline if you wanted to. All of those are valid options for opposing Flipkens there.
One Brit to another. Jo Konta, has she got the game to win a major on hard court?
Yes, I think she has the game. I think as with Murray, and as seems to be the case with a lot of the Brits, it's the head that I'm questioning more. I think Konta has the weaponry. I think she has the class. It's just that she has never really seemed to be able to string it together in quite the right way. She's never been able to have quite the right amount of belief to take her through a tournament, sadly. But maybe this will be a time. You never know. She can always come firing out.
Snize, before we go on to the men, although you've already touched upon it, who wins the ladies for you?
So before the tournament started, I went pretty confident with two women. One of them was the woman that James touched upon, Bianca Andreescu, and the other one is Madison Keys. So starting with Andreescu, she has the highest winning percentage on the entire tour on hard court over the last 12 months. She's won Toronto. She won Indian Wells earlier in the year with another miracle run. And when she gets going, she's just been unstoppable, really. She has everything. She has the serve, she has the return, she has the powerful ground stroke, she has the movement, the defensive skills, the variety. She has the mental strength and fortitude to come through when the going gets tough. So she has all the pieces, and she has a very good chance. And Madison Keys, she's the 2017 finalist, the 2018 semifinalist, and she's been able to reel in her unforced errors and play with controlled aggression, which we haven't really seen before from the powerful American. And she won Cincinnati in the lead up to this tournament, looked great in her first round, still not going for too much. And when she's playing like this, focused, she's a great bat. And I just realized I actually forgot to mention my women's bet. So just real quickly, I am high on Coco Gauff. I was initially going against her really in the first round match. She was facing Anastasia Potapova, a really talented young player. I thought she was going to struggle there, which she did initially. She lost the first set, but she really dug deep, the 15-year-old, and came back from a set down to score that win. Timea Babos, the Hungarian, she had to qualify to get here, but she isn't really the force of old, the 26-year-old. She's lost a lot of power since a few years ago when she was ranked 25. She's ranked 112 now. She's lost some speed as well. She's only 30-12 on hard courts this year, and I think the young American, backed by an eruptuous crowd, should be able to get the win there. So at 1.67, I bet Gauff to win.
Okay, James, give me your idea of the women's champ.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Snize, really. I mean, I think it's difficult to find a particularly compelling line outside of the top sort of like 25% of the market. We had Whale Capper on the other day who suggested Collins at 200-1, which I think was a great bet at the time. But really beyond that, I think there are a few players lower down in the field, Andreescu and Keys probably being the best two, who definitely have a good chance of upsetting Serena, Halep, the very top of the field. And especially given the general sense that Serena's in decline and that I think she's tending not to be in her best headspace now, I think taking one of those two makes a lot of sense. My only issue with Keys is the difference of conditions from Cincinnati. As Snize pointed out, she dealt with that fine in the first round. It'd be interesting to see what happens when she has a bit more pressure on, and I think it'll be a very interesting quarter between her and Pliskova. But I would personally be more inclined towards Andreescu, towards thinking that she's probably going to have a very good chance against Halep, and then going forward in the rest of the tournament. So that would probably be my pick, Andreescu.
Is there any chance that with the bracket the way it is, that they could actually meet in the final and you could have them both?
I've actually forgotten. Are they in the opposite halves?
Yeah, they're in the opposite half, so they can meet up in the final. That's the dream scenario.
Exactly. How big are your smiles going to be if we do this show next week and they're just sitting there like, who cares?
Yeah, there you go.